Welcome back to another episode of Anyone Extraordinary. Today we have Steve back on the podcast. I appreciate you coming out, Steve.
Yeah, happy to be back again. A little different location this time, though.
Little different location. Steve and I recorded a podcast right before I moved down here to Columbus when I formerly lived in Cleveland. And to be honest, life's just been hectic and never got around to posting it. So I'm like, Steve, let's record another one. Let's get together. Let's have a conversation. So that's why we're here now. Super excited for this conversation, man. I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah, of course. I always love coming and seeing you. It's good to catch up. Obviously, both busy doing shit, living life. So it's always good to catch up and see what's going on.
Yeah, for sure, man. I love being around you, and I think I find myself thinking that I'm not as mentally tough because I surround myself with people like you, who I really do think their mental fortitude is very high. And I remember when I first met you, the reason I was attracted to you is because I would look out my college front window, and I would just see you ripping miles down the street. And then I'd walk out the next day, I'd see you flying by, and the next day flying by, I'm like, I got to get to know this guy. Like, this guy is constantly that doesn't play a sport anymore, has his career's ended, and he's still just getting after it. And you were a year older than me, but that's something that I value, because I always thought about, when my time's over as a football player, you were a soccer player in college, I want to keep that fire inside of me. So how did you keep that going, even when it wasn't there in a structured plan for you, soccer training, but now it's over and you got to figure it out on your own?
Yeah, I think that's really tough. I think you see it with like a lot of athletes, even especially in high school. They talk about the freshman 20, freshman 15 in college, because everyone in high school, everybody played sports, and then they get to college and you don't have that forced exercise that you used to have in your life, and people put on weight pretty fast because they start drinking and doing drugs and not exercising. And so I was fortunate enough to go into college soccer, and I just built that discipline. And then, to be honest with you, when soccer ended, my whole thing was, I'm just going to lift, get big, stay in shit, like just lift. And that was kind of my thing. And then I read David Goggins' first book when I was sophomore summer going into junior summer, because I always enjoyed reading, and Navy SEAL books were my favorite, just like Lone Survivor, amazing read, American Sniper, books like that. And I saw
what attracts you to those books? What actually fascinates you about the idea of them? Why do you like reading them?
I think for me, because one, you appreciate what people are willing to do to let you live in a country like this with certain freedoms is amazing. I mean, Lone Survivor, if you watch the movie, it's cool because it takes place over a day, but if you read the book, you hear the actual real day-by-day version. It was a 7-day event, which you don't get, and you just listen to this guy been shot all over the legs. His legs are broke, and he's crawling like 4 miles a day to evade terrorists that are just trying to kill him on a hill. And it's like, somebody was willing to do that for $30,000 a year so that I can enjoy my life in a comfy home with heat, staying warm, with good food, with clean water.
The essentials.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be appreciative of what those people were willing to do. I mean,
So those Navy SEALs books bring a certain sort of perspective.
Yeah, patriotism, appreciation for the life that you're given compared to what these other people have, and then the discipline that they have. I mean, to me, I've always been a big fan of superheroes. I love the Marvel movies, and to me, they're as close to real life superheroes as it gets. I mean, they literally seems like they shouldn't be able to be moving. They should be dead from some of the stuff that they went through, and yet they're still out there kicking ass, doing everything they can with their last breath, possibly their last breath, and they don't change their mentality. And so that kind of what drove me to that. And I saw David's book, and I saw this big fat person and a skinny person, and to be honest, I know it says don't judge a book by its cover, but I saw the cover and I was like, this is interesting. And I didn't really know anything about him. I would just occasionally see him pop up on like a YouTube video, stuff like that, but I never really like knew the guy, who he was, or anything at all. And then I read his book, and I was like, there is so much more to life than just my sport, and so many things that I can do after my sport. Like, sports isn't the end of my physical peak. There's so much more to accomplish after reading his book, and he talks about mentality and everything. And I was like, how do I get to that point? And I was like, well, let's start with some goals of like, what are some easy, not easy things, but things that are accomplishable that can be done after school. And I was like a marathon is a cool bucket list thing. Great community, which I didn't know at the time, but I was just thinking to myself, like, that's a hard event, but it's definitely very achievable. And so then I just go straight in. Once I find something that really looks exciting to me, I just start digging into research, and it's amazing how many sources of information are out there with YouTube. There's all kinds of books that you can get your hands on now, podcasts on running. There's so many different ways, and so I just start diving in every morning, every free time. I just start scrolling and just reading, listening to videos, articles, anything I could find. And then I found a training program that I really liked that was free, and I just started following everything that was said on it, how to do my runs, the proper nutrition. It talked about a big thing with a lot of beginning runners, I think, is that they don't lift and they don't realize how strong. Excuse me.
You're good.
Your hamstrings and calves have to be, because I mean, you've done long runs, you just start cramping on the back of your legs, and it really comes down to leg strength, and people just don't understand the endurance that your legs need to do a 3-hour, 4-hour run. And so I just started diving in. I'm like, there's so much more to this. And then I did my first marathon back in 22. I think it was April of 22. And it was amazing. The community, how many people are just a part of it, the grind. And then it's so weird because you're in so much pain. And I tell people this all the time who are like, oh, you love running and all this stuff. And I'm like, look at all the pictures from my marathons. I just posted one a couple months ago of the Columbus Marathon. There's 6 or 7 pics. Every single one of those pics, I look like I'm in so much pain, except one pic. It's the pic that I finished. And I'm like, it's amazing the sense of accomplishment you feel when you finish a marathon. It's awesome. It's amazing. And it's so fun, and everyone's cheering for you when you finish, but the run itself sucks. I mean, you're in pain. I was cramping so badly. My stomach was giving me problems. I literally had to stop and poop twice in the middle of the runs. And I just felt like crap. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucks. I just talk about, it's literally the wildest, most fun story ever of, I ate like a really carb loaded diet the night before, getting ready for my marathon, woke up, I do my normal, I usually try not to eat a lot of carbs except the day before and the day of a marathon. My morning routine is usually fruit, a piece of toast with peanut butter and honey on it, or a couple pieces of toast with peanut butter and honey, and then like that's all I do. And then so I was like fine, and then I get to the finish start line, and I could start feeling myself like having to go to the bathroom really badly, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna run until I have to go really badly, then I'll stop at a porta potty, because the previous year I had an issue where I had to go to the bathroom, and I waited like 30 minutes, and I almost didn't start when my group started. I had to basically sprint from the bathroom to the start line and get out.
That's not fun.
No, it was awful. I was in such a rush and anxiety that I forgot my goo gels, which basically, for anyone that doesn't know anything about running, they just are a bunch of sodium, caffeine. It's like a protein runner's pudding. It has sodium, caffeine. It basically just helps you with cramping and hydrates you and everything. And I left them there, and then I died at the end of the race because you're supposed to really take them every 30 to 40 minutes. I got screwed. So I was like, screw that. I'm just going to hold it in. And I ran my first 3 miles, and then I stopped and took a bathroom break. And then I kept going. And then about mile, I want to say, 16, at mile 17, you run across the shoe in Columbus, which is really cool. And I always feel like it gives me motivation for the last little bit, but I just felt like crap. And I was looking at my time on my watch, and I'm like, I just don't even see a world where I go under 3:30. And I wanted to be at worst in the 2 teens was my goal.
2 teens.
3 teens. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, 3 teens. Yeah. Wow. 2 teens a little fast for me, but anyway, so 3 teens, and I was just like, and it stunk because I had rolled my ankle, so I would put myself out for like 2 weeks in like prime conditioning for the Columbus Marathon. But I was like 3 teens, excuse me, is going to be my PR. I'll be happy with that. And then I was doing the math, and I'm like, it's going to be really hard to get 3 teens right now with the way that I'm feeling. And then mile 17, I saw the shoe, and I was like able to keep a decent pace. And then mile 18, I hit, and like halfway through, this guy came running up, and he's in my Instagram picture. His name's TJ. And I just saw him, and I was like, okay, I can keep pace with him. Like, let's just do a couple more miles. And I kept keeping pace with him, and then all of a sudden, he started to slow down. And I'm like, I'm not tired. Like, I could do another mile at this pace. And he just started to trail me for the next couple miles. And we did another couple miles. I'm like, it was like 21, 22, mile 21, 22. I'm like, okay, I only have 4 more. Like, let's see if we can just do a couple more. Let's not do any 10-minute splits. If we have to drop down to 9 minutes, we drop down to 9 minutes. And every mile, me or TJ were leading, but we just stayed neck and neck with each other, and we didn't say a word to each other and kept running. And then at mile 25, so I was down to I just finished the 25th miles. On the last mile, I started feeling a cramp, and I slowed down a little bit. TJ probably finished about 30 seconds ahead of me, but we got it done at like 3:16, and afterwards, me and him talked for like 30 minutes, and it was like, and it was so funny because we didn't say a word for each other. We ran together for over an hour. We didn't say a single word to each other until the end of the race, and we just talked about how appreciative we were of each other, keeping us going. And like, that's just the running community, and it's really cool because, like I said, I never knew this guy, never seen him in my life. We ran into each other, still hadn't said a word to each other, but we just knew like each other was our motivating factor for like keeping the pace going, and ended with a 7:30 pace, 3:16, and it was a great day.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's so cool. And those are the experiences that you'll never forget, no matter how long you live. And that's super important to have those memories. And it is such a cool part about pushing so hard.
Yeah.
And you're just bound to make memories with different people, or even just with yourself, from going to that deeper level, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about marathon running. That, you know, I've actually never completed a full marathon yet. I've only done halves, but still, even just getting together with a large group of people and doing these hard races, it's so great. It brings so much perspective to life. It makes your life that much better. And when you having gone through that, you're just a better person because of it.
Yeah, and I think too, when you just have someone accountable, because obviously in running there's so many different. You have really fast people, really slow people. You have people that run short distances, people that run crazy long distances. But everybody at every level has somebody that I would say keeps them accountable, that keeps them going. I mean, even the top guys like Goggins and Haynes, I feel like they, even though they're friends and they do crazy stuff, I think each one of them keeps one another accountable to just keep going and keep doing crazier and crazier stuff, because they're always like, oh, Goggins is doing this, oh, Haynes is doing that. And so they keeps each other accountable. And I think that's why it's so good to have those friends that do similar things like this, of like, they're just getting after it. So, you know, like, oh, you know, so-and-so got it in today. I got to keep getting it in and keep pace with them. I mean, yeah. How, because you were training your triathlon with someone, weren't you? The one that you did? Yeah.
Yes.
Who was that?
His name was Jake Justice. Yeah. He was first-time triathloner, college athlete. So coming out of college was always found a way to stay in shape, but the triathlon was definitely very different from me. He ended up beating me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he's a stud.
Mm-hmm. What was his college sport?
His basketball.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
He played at Otterbein.
Oh, sick. And I'm sure you guys probably kept each other accountable for working.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we had like our Sunday evening long bike ride. We would do at least 20, 25 miles every Sunday night, set the tone for the week. We would talk about our workouts. We'd meet up at 5 before work and swim and stuff and sauna. Awesome. Yeah. So that was super nice. But I think, as much as the biggest lesson I took from the triathlon this year was it literally eliminates your ego. Yeah. And I think my race was like 3, 4, 5 hours between people finishing. You are a completely different person from the time that you show up at 5 a.m. from the time you leave at 11. Yeah, I walked in there, and just my background of being an athlete and a competitor, I just start sizing people up. Yeah, I'm like, I could beat that person. Yeah. I may not beat that person. I really want to beat that person. I'd be pissed if that person beat me, you know?
Right.
And then you do a 1.5 mile swim, you get out, your body's tired, you're running up. We had to run up this huge hill to get to our bike. And by the time I got to the bike, my legs were like,
you're gassed,
just toast. And I was like, oh my God. You do 40 miles on the bike ride, and by the time you get to the run, and everybody at that, you know, the triathlon run, everyone's just trying to finish.
Right.
And by the time you get to the run, 3.5 hours in, I could care less about, I forget those thoughts that I had about wanting to beat somebody. you're just trying to get everybody to the end.
Yeah.
You're trying to get everybody to the finish line. And obviously this changes if you're a competitor at a national level and want to be the greatest triathlete of all time. But for 99% of people that do triathlons or marathons, you're out there competing against yourself. And if you're doing it the right way, you just want everybody to do good as well. You know?
And it's gonna suck for, that's the thing, it doesn't matter if you're the fastest person in the field or the slowest, it's gonna suck for whoever. There's gonna be pain, like you're gonna hurt, and and you all go through that. And I think that's why everyone can relate so much. And it's not like anyone talks shit of like, oh, you suck, you did it 4 hours slower than me. It's like, dude, respect, who cares? You got it done.
It's so easy to judge from the sidelines. Like I if I was driving past a triathlon, maybe, you know, before I had these experiences, maybe I'd be like, oh, that's easy. Look how slow they're going. So easy to judge. And then you do it and you're like, wow, these people are amazing. And you're just, as you're going through those troubling times and you're passing people and you're going through the loop, you're just like, keep going. And then I remember I cramped, both my quads cramped, and I was just standing there still. Like, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to finish this race. This guy passed me. He's like, walk it off. Just keep walking. Don't stand still. And I started walking it off. You know, people are giving you pointers throughout the race. It's like you embed yourself in this such adverse situation, and everyone is there like guiding people to the finish line.
And you can just
so
relate
cool.
so much with everyone, because you're just like, I'm going through so much pain right now. And I think like that was another thing that helped me in the Columbus Marathon, is that like mile 18 is when everyone starts hitting the wall. So everyone that was racing at that pace, at a faster pace than me, started walking. And it's crazy how you get energy off it, because you're like, oh, you know that they're suffering too, but you're not quitting, and neither are they. So you may as well just keep going and getting it done. And I remember just seeing people. I kept running past people. I'm like, I'm usually that person that's walking at this point, and I'm not right now. And it just gave me so much energy, and it kept me going. It really did, which was wild. But yeah, I mean, likewise. And that's why like I like anybody who's wants help, wants into this community, I'm so for. And my biggest goal, and it's so funny because I feel like people are afraid to ask for my help because they see me as being this, I don't even know, I don't think I'm even close to the most disciplined compared to these other people out here doing wilder stuff than me. But I consider myself to be in the upper echelon of discipline with the running and the exercising and everything. And I think everyone's like intimidated that if they ask for my help, that I'm going to try to get them to quit. And that's never my goal. My goal is to get them on a healthy basis of consistency. And then once we get a consistent base, then we can work up to whatever your goals are. Like, for example, my girlfriend wants to do a half marathon in the new year. And she's like, you're going to be tough. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to be tough. You want to do a half marathon. Like, that's not an easy accomplishment, but we're not going to start out really hard. We're going to start out really easy so that your body gets accustomed to what it's like, and then we're going to build up and do some hard workouts, because the whole point is not to get you to quit. The whole point is to help you achieve the goal that you set for yourself. And I think that happens with a lot of people who like want to lose a lot of weight or something. They just set these really unrealistic goals. It's like, well, let's start a really easy goal first so that you get a little bit of motivation and a little bit of encouragement, and then we can go after the really hard goals.
Yeah. That could not be more true. And that I feel that as well, as you go through seasons of life, and there's times when you're all invested,
right,
and you're training hard, and then you'll go into the off season of life where you're maybe taking care of yourself a little bit more.
Right.
Like these past few months, I've just been kind of sauna, cold plunge, light workouts, yoga,
taking care
this
of your
new
body.
Foundation training that I've figured out for my back. And it's difficult to, as I begin to start training for something at the new year, it's going to be important to keep in mind that, hey, you don't have to go full throttle right away.
Right,
You're not in the endurance shape that you were in 4 months ago. So go easy on yourself. Every workout you don't need to kill yourself. You know, you're better off if you just take those baby steps.
Yeah, I agree. Because if you train for an Ironman and quit 3 weeks into it, that doesn't really do you any good. To where if you're just going really slow for those first 3 months, and then all of a sudden that helps you get into really good shape to start doing really hard workouts, that's way more beneficial than taking those first 3 weeks really hard and then having to take a month off, and it's like, well, you're starting at ground zero again.
So obviously we've gotten into a culture where we have a lot of obesity and health issues. You mentioned the freshman 15, and obviously just people kind of letting loose when, you know, they're given a little bit of leeway, or once they finish their collegiate or high school sport, or there's no structure, they just kind of fall off the deep end per se, and find it difficult to pick back up and find a sort of healthy routine that, you know, benefits their life in a good way. So what do you think? And I know you mentioned before taking it easy, taking baby steps and getting into it. But what would you say is the best way to approach becoming healthy and more fit when, you know, you don't have the demands?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think first you want to surround yourself with healthy people. I mean, you can get advice from them. You're an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so I think that's beneficial, really beneficial, of who you surround yourself with, because that'll help a lot. But I think it goes between 3 things of personal growth, and then which is just self-growth. And I think you have to work on your physical growth, and then you can work on your diet. And I think if you focus on one of those 3 things at first, you just start getting in a groove and enthusiastic about just overall health. And so I think for me, the best thing to do would be to find somebody who is in really good shape and knows a lot about fitness, and I would start with them. Because for me, a big problem that I've been having is with my I've gotten tendonitis in both of my Achilles last January, and then I got tendonitis again this December. So I've gotten tendonitis 3 times in the past year. And so I was like, well, what can I do? And so I reached out to Riley about doing his ATG program, because it's all about back leg stability, knee stability, hamstrings. And so I'm like, this is going to be a perfect way for help me to minimize if I strengthen those muscles. And so I think you got to find people that are going to be willing to help you, that are beneficial. And they got to know too that you got to start out with the baby steps of, maybe how about we work out for 3 days a week for 30 minutes. And it's like, oh, that's perfect, because that's going to be a hard enough workout for someone who's overweight that they're going to lose some weight, but they're not going to feel like absolute crap the next day where they can't get out of bed. And then maybe in a couple months, let's go to 4 days a week. And then a couple months, maybe let's do an hour instead of a half hour. And then I think you build, and then you start feeling healthy. And it's like, okay, well, like, what if we cut out fast food now and soda, which is crazy, because it's exactly what one of my roommates did starting last year. He started 75 hard, and then after that he just hit the ground running of, like, now he doesn't do any soda, and now he eats healthy all the time, and now he goes to the gym every day, is what he's built on over time, just by slow incremental changes.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you get on this healthy train of, like, just the culture of eating healthy, working out all the time? What started that for you?
What started it for me, and I did face challenges after football and things like that. Well, at first I was just finding ways to really challenge myself, because that's what football always was for me.
Yeah.
But it was creating burnout. I mean, college sports are no joke. High school sports are no joke.
Yeah.
And then just jumping right into more challenges and, like, doing real, because I feel really good after a very gruesome workout. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to find, like, just different ways to challenge myself. But it was leading to immense burnout, where I would get through the workouts, but it was mentally taxing. Like, I just wasn't, I needed a rest. So what changed for me is when I started framing my workouts towards, and lifestyle towards, feeling good.
Yeah.
Like, I really let off the brakes, and I realized that every day I don't need to be killing myself nor should I feel the need to kill myself to have a good workout and feel good. Right. So what I do now, I think, like I said, I kind of treat, or I have been treating this past year like different seasons. I trained pretty hard for the Cleveland Marathon, got hurt, did the half marathon. Right. And then I trained really hard for the 3rd Ironman, completed that. And ever since then, I've kind of been in this off-season stage where every day I do something.
Right.
Even if it's as minor as going to the sauna or taking a cold shower, I do something, but I never work out to the point where I'm sore the next day. Right. I do simple kettlebell workouts where I feel good. I'm using the elasticity of my body as well as the strength. Like, I work a lot of deep range of motion things, like lateral lunges and, overhead holds and a lot of things that are just built from the core of your body. And I'll also just do, different workouts. Some days I'll ramp it up and do a tough rower workout or go for a run or hop on the bike. But it's really ultimately how I feel. If I wake up and I'm stiff one day, I'm just going to do yoga and just recover that day.
Right.
So my mindset flipped when I said, in this season of my life, all I want to do is feel good.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to kill myself over a workout to not be able to walk for the next 3 days.
Right. Yeah.
There's going to be a point in my time, probably in the near future, where I want to do that because I want to chase something such as an Ironman or whatever it is. But in this season right now, I truly just want to feel good. And it's such a fun time because I truly enjoy going to the gym every day.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right.
Like I love it. I treat it as one of my favorite parts of the day. Mm-hmm. And I genuinely look forward to it because it's not this workout that takes an immense amount of mental fortitude to get through. It's more like a flow, So that's what allows me to have this reset while also keeping my body healthy.
Right.
Cause I think I could be 100% in all the time and always be training hard, but I think you need these parts in times where you're resetting.
And even when I'm working out really hard, there's weeks where it's a lighter week compared to a really hard week because you do get those sorenesses and pains and stuff, so you can't go hard. If you went hard all the time, your body would break down into nothing and you wouldn't be able to. It needs those periods of rest and recovery, which I think are really vital as well. But you can obviously still do something that's progressive towards your recovery and rest, like yoga. Or like today, instead of going and running 10 miles, I'm going to go run 3 miles and at a 9-minute pace instead of a 6-minute pace helps a lot too with your body. So
yes, I
completely agree with that. And you see it all the time with whatever athlete. They will always, I mean, they obviously train really hard, but there's some days where you're not going to train your hardest every day. It's impossible. Yeah. You're going to regress if you train your hardest every single day. So
yeah. Switching up the trajectory here a little bit. You're somebody that's traveled a lot in your life.
Yeah.
You've been to a lot of different countries, been all over the U.S. What sort of perspective has that brought you, and why do you think it's important to witness and surround yourself, immerse yourself in these cultures?
Yeah. I think the one thing that it does for you from a mental standpoint is just to show you the wide variety of ways there are to enjoy life, wide varieties of hobbies and interests to do. And I think that's the coolest thing about traveling is you just learn about different cultures. Oh, they do these activities. For example, like soccer is obviously a big thing in England, and that's amazing, and that's amazing for them that they love to focus on soccer. Or you see it in the States where certain cities or certain states focus on certain sports a lot more and are better at sports in certain areas. Like obviously the South is really good at football, and there's a lot of really good runners out west because they train at high altitude. And I just think that it shows you the complexity, especially now with society, of how many different things you can be interested in. And I think I have a lot of hobbies and interests that I really like. I love chess. I think chess is a great game. It teaches you a lot about thought, discipline. It makes you smarter. And then there's certain people who, for example, my cousins, I have 3 cousins that are from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and 2 of them are big tennis players, and that's obviously athletics, and that's awesome for them. They both played college tennis, good college tennis players. And then their oldest it's a daughter or a girl, and she lives in Florida, but she was never into athletics. She was a flute player, and she loved performing in her church choir as she would play the flute, and she loved acting and drama and art and that kind of stuff. And she was completely different. And it's so funny because growing up, my mom was you got to make your bed every morning. This is how you clean the dishes. This is how the trash gets taken out. And it was so weird because that was the only perspective that I had witnessed my first 18 years of life before college. And to me, if you didn't do things that way, you were wrong. And then I got to college and it's like, oh, I like to paint. Oh, I like to hunt. Oh, I like this sport. I like that sport. you know, and there's so many different things. And then it just opened my perspective of like, there's not one wrong way to live life. If you're contributing to society, you're not being negative, you're not causing anybody harm, and you're having an enjoyable time pursuing what passions you have, then it's like there's a bajillion different options of ways to live life. And it's incredible because in my mind, there's a few things that you can do that are wrong, that go against society, but there's so many different positive ways that you can benefit society. And it's amazing just to see all the different ways that people do it. And especially from the college perspective that we've had of like, you got guys like Cal Reynolds, who Cal will cook it. He's a big fitness cook guy, and it's like that's an amazing avenue that you can go through. And then, do you know who Marcelo Hernandez is? Marcelo went down it's crazy. I remember
he was actually. It's funny. He was just featured on Joe Rogan. He wasn't on it, but on Protect Our Parks.
Yeah, they talked about how funny he was. I know. I was listening to it on the way up, and I'm like, I used to drink beer with that guy at the Bromley house right across from the baseball field. When he was in town, it was he coming over and him drinking beer, and I'm like, now he's a freaking celebrity. And
explain who that is.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, Marcelo Hernandez was a soccer player at John Carroll. He played his freshman and sophomore year. He was 2 years older than me, 3 years older than Luke. After a sophomore season, he was doing stand-up comedy at local comedy shows in Cleveland. He was like, I'm obsessed with comedy. I'm going to pursue this. Even if I'm not making a lot of money, I'm going to pursue it. And every summer he would go to New York and he would stand outside comedy clubs and he would have to sell his own tickets to make any kind of money off of his shows. And then he kept doing tours and he kept practicing and hammering. And then 2 years ago, he went and had a tryout for Saturday Night Live. He got picked up, and now at that point, he was about 50,000 Instagram followers, and now I think he's almost at 1 million. I think he's at 750,000 there. And he's just become this big celebrity, and it's crazy because that's what he wanted to pursue, comedy, and he didn't care if he didn't make a lot of money at it. For him, it was just something that he was passionate about, and he turned the passion into reality. And then for me, like, I'm the same way of, like, I'm really passionate about like personal development. I'm really passionate about exercise too, and obviously I haven't really accomplished a whole lot in that avenue in the whole grand scheme of things compared to people, and that's why I love talking about it, but I'm still on that path and learning how to give my message and help other people. And I love just doing what I'm doing. I love waking up, working out, and then I love going to my job, helping contribute to society, try to make other people's lives easier, try to help other people out. And then I love coming home and working out and spending time with friends, girlfriend, family, enjoying meals together. And it's a basic life, but that's what I like, and that's what I like to pursue. So that's why I'm just a big believer in figure out what you like and pursue it with every ounce of energy that you have. And it's amazing what kind of life you'll have in 5-10 years. I mean, I've been on this journey. It really started when I was freshman going into sophomore year of college. I got this job selling kitchen cutlery. Shout out to Cutco. It was a job that really changed my life.
Shout out Cutco.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, it's a knife. You literally sell kitchen knives to family and friends, and you learn how to network. And I always wanted to go into sales. And as a freshman, you obviously don't get a lot of looks at internships. And this job presented itself, and I was like, you know what, I'll take a shot. And I never really had a job that was 100% commission. I've had jobs in the past. My first job was reffing soccer games, which I obviously loved, but I never had like a real job of like, this stuff is hard, like roll your sleeves and grind. And that was the first summer where I got into it. And the thing about sales jobs, you need a lot of motivation to do it. And so it's a lot about personal growth. And that's where I learned about personal growth, and I got obsessed with it. And that's what got me into reading all the time, journaling all the time, meditating all the time. And then I put that into play, and it evolved my life a lot. I think it helped evolve a lot of my relationships, and it's why I've been able to develop so many great relationships and friendships with people all over the place and get along with everyone really well. And that's how kind of where I got to now. I mean, it was amazing.
What's the most influential book you've read?
Ooh, damn, that's a really
can't be Goggins.
No, I know I don't think it is Goggins, to be honest. There's so many good. I'm gonna do a top 3 because I think there's just so many good books out there. I think How to Win Friends and Influence People, amazing read. I think 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because I think the 7 rules are amazing. I'm actually gonna do 4. Sorry,
you're good.
I think It's called The Soulmate Experience, and that's a really good book. And I just don't think it applies to finding your significant other. I think it also just applies to every relationship. There's so many great lessons in that book of like respecting other people's opinions, taking interest in other people's hobbies. There's so many different. And then the book I just got done reading a couple months ago, it's by Jordan Peterson. It's called The 12 Rules of Life, and it's just the most fundamental rules ever that I think if every human followed, we'd live in such an amazing world and society where it's so supportive and everyone's not trying to cancel each other and tear each other down. It'd be everybody working together to benefit from one another. So I mean, those are the 4 books that I would highly recommend to read. I think they're all very easy reads, and they're all very informative. If you take the time and apply the lessons, it's amazing, I think, how much they benefit each person's life.
What was the single best experience, or single most, what was the rule?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one of the rules from Jordan Peterson's book, but what's one thing that you were able to take from that book and now implement into your life?
Yeah, dang, that's a good question. I think one of the books that I mean, he says, I've learned it in it's been in a lot of other books, but it's just the one rule that I really liked is, it was along the lines of get your house in order before you complain about somebody else's house, which basically means don't be complaining about what other people are doing because you have flaws too that you should be working on getting better. There's no reason to criticize someone else when you should be working on yourself. And I was like, I mean, and they say that in a lot of books about criticizing people, and I think it's a great point. And I think you can criticize people that maybe need help or try to help them get in the right path. But if you're going to criticize someone for liking that political candidate or being that kind of religion or liking that hobby, I think you should get your life in order. I mean, how can you be fat and complain about me working out all the time or giving advice about working out all the time? Maybe you should get your life in order. And that's why I really like to live my life off of that, is I really try not to complain about anybody's decisions or anything. As long as they're happy and they're contributing to society, I believe like they're doing a good job. If they want my help, they're more than welcome to ask for it. I would love to help everybody and anybody who asks for my help.
Yeah. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by Jordan Peterson and his ideologies.
Yeah.
He goes a mile a minute. He's very difficult to keep up with sometimes because he's just so brilliant.
Exactly.
But obviously when you break his, I'd love to read his book because as hard as he is to follow in an interview when he's going that fast, when it broken down into 12 rules, I think that'd be very beneficial. Yeah, I've seen that book. Yeah. Obviously, there's just a million books out there. There's always been one that I've wanted to read.
And he's got a lot of good stories. So if you don't understand what he's explaining, you can relate the story a lot to his rules, which I like a lot. Because chapter 1, he talks about keeping your shoulders high and tight and back and be looking confident and confident. And he basically goes into talking about how these lobsters, they will fight for the best home in the sea to get food and everything. And he says it's the lobsters, if they both want a spot, they will fight over it. And it's usually the bigger, stronger lobster that gets it. But he basically relates that to the story of like, don't be scared of the bullies in life. Like, you stick up for them. They're not as tough as they may sound. He talks about how smaller lobsters will beat bigger lobsters because they're not as strong as they may look. And I thought it was a really good rule. It's the first rule of life, is what he has in the book. So it's a good rule to relate to life too. Is like, there are people that are going to try to be bullies and push you around, but you should stand up to them and not be afraid of them.
Right.
Yeah.
So you say that you're passionate about health and running and fitness, and you'd love to. It seems like it's on the back burner, but sort of working towards something that could possibly eventually, like Marcelo and like Cal, eventually be a part of your life that you could, turn into a career or something like that. Obviously you would love to wake up and do those things every single day.
Right.
You have a job right now where you're, like you said, contributing to your company. Yeah. But what would your dream life look like in terms of doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, like, I want to keep working my 9 to 5 because it's nothing against those influencers, but I just find them so unrelatable. Congratulations. You can go work out at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon because you have no other job but to tell people to go buy this or do this or follow this fitness program. And so I hate being hypocritical, and that's why I try not to judge anybody or make any assumptions about anyone's life because I have no idea what they're going through. But a perfect job for me would be working my 9 to 5, but also being able to give talks and help people benefit their life and help them develop personally and help them get great relationships, because I think there's so many unhappy people out there right now. And I would like for them to just figure out what their perfect ideal life is and be able to live it. And I think it would be hypocritical of me because most people can't be an influencer. And so for me, the best option would be work my 9 to 5 so I can relate just like everyone else. And I still go out and I still enjoy hanging out and getting dinner with friends, having some drinks. But I also love working out and pushing myself every day. And I'm able to do both. I travel a decent amount for my job. I have to cover, Western Ohio all the way over to State College, PA. So, and into West Virginia. So, my territory, I'm about in the middle, but from east to west, it's like a 6-7 hour drive. So there's days where I've done 10 hours of driving on the road, and it's just part of life. And I hope that Americans can relate to that when I get further into my life, but I haven't accomplished enough that I think people would be inspired by me yet. But it's fun when my immediate friend group or people I played soccer with now who I run into occasionally in Cleveland, they're like, dude, what you do is awesome. It's amazing to see you. Like, you're out here drinking with everybody, but then you're also out there running. And so that's why I like to do everything that I do, just to show that like everyday people can do extraordinary things. You don't have to be special or have any special talent. You just have to be disciplined, and you have to find a goal and a passion that you really want to pursue.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's deep, man. And yeah, you have definitely contributed to my life in a great way. I mean, I think you really are a product of the people that you hang around. I mean, everybody knows that, but we don't even live in the same city now, but we still keep in touch, and we see each other's runs, and we get together and do things like this. So it's super cool. Yeah, man, there's something about having a normal life that's super cool. And I've been thinking recently just about, like, we are not wired to be on those social media apps. They're so bad for you. And these influencers that just make them seem like their lives are so much better than yours. It's just so unhealthy because we're all living the dream. Yeah. Like, especially if you're living in the United States, you're able to have a roof over your head and you're able to put food on the table. Like, we are living the dream. And for you to constantly be put in this comparison trap echo chamber is so unhealthy.
And the one thing that I love to say too is there's a great quote by Inky Johnson who says that if they took all your money, what would you be worth? And I love that quote because for me, those influencers, go talk to their friends when they're not around. I guarantee all of them would talk shit. And I mean, one of the great examples, I'm not going to name who, but there's someone from Cleveland that used to work really closely with a big top-notch influencer that everybody would know. We met him out at a bar once. He's a piece of shit. He's terrible, and he basically screwed him over. This guy works in Cleveland now, just a normal job, and he just talks shit. And I'm like, see that right there? They're all fake. Congratulations. You all have millions of followers and everything, but what would those people say to you if you didn't have all those followers and all that money? I guarantee they would all talk shit right behind your back. And I know all of my friends are close, and if there's something that I do wrong, they'll have no problem telling me to my face, and I have no problem telling them to their face if they do something wrong. And I hope that they talk highly of me when I'm not around, because I think that's the relationships that I've created. I'm not trying to screw anyone over. I'm just trying to be a good person, help as many people in life succeed, and be the best person that I can be.
Right. There's definitely a lot of that out there. Yeah. And those are the ones that a lot of those people find a way to create a massive following, but there's also a lot of people out there that are doing great things, with their following.
I agree.
And you've got to, if you're going to be on those social media apps, you got to tailor your following towards people that truly want the best.
And that's why, like, for me, I'm such a fanboy of Cameron Haynes and David Goggins, because they're not only just like talking the talk, if you got to do all this exercise and everything, they're also out there. Cameron Haynes worked his job at the electrician company for 25, 28 years on top of running 20 miles every day. And David Goggins is still out there fighting forest fires like he's a 20-year-old and he's 45. And so that's why I like those guys the best, because I don't think they're all talk. I think they do exactly what they say they're going to do. They work hard. They contribute to society. On top, they get after it, and they're just so inspirational to me. And that's like what they do is the person that I wanted to become. When you talk about my dream of, like, it's exactly what they're doing, just waking up, being able to help contribute, give people some motivation, that I'm out here getting it in. Hopefully they're getting it in too, that I give them some motivation to get after it. but then I'm also just like them, and I'm getting up and going and working my job every day too. So
Yeah, there is something about that.
Yeah.
Like you love
Right.
you love the people that in some way you're able to relate to, but it's
Exactly.
also funny, like you love the story. We as humans love the story that is like troubled.
yeah,
you
or
know,
the underdog.
the underdog
Yeah.
story. Like
It's
nobody
awesome.
likes nobody's attracted to the person that made $1 million from selling this one thing that, you know, came and gone, NFTs and
Right.
Bitcoin and like nobody's attracted to that person.
Yeah,
You know, we want to hear about
they're not relatable.
right. We want to hear about the you know, the movie producer that lived in a single bedroom apartment with his mother in New York and somehow made it
Right.
and lived the American dream.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's fascinated by the person that grew up with millions of dollars
Right.
and you know his dad bought him whatever and like
He has a private jet now. He flies everywhere. And,
right. Yeah, it's there's so much to be said about relatability, and that's what if you're somebody that's truly going to influence people, you have to be relatable, and that's what I think we find with the people that we enjoy talking about is like they're just normal people that are relatable and have a rather extraordinary life, but they're still relatable because they talk like real people. They're not a robot. They're not doing everything for a click or a money or whatever. It's like it's crazy that people are out there like doing ad campaigns for something that they don't believe in.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's just the craziest thing.
Like you see Travis Kelce out there on the Pfizer vaccine. It's like, I'd love to see if he's truly you really think that dude's going to get the vaccine after all the problems that it's caused? There's no way he would, as healthy as he is, there's no way he would risk that.
Yeah, it just doesn't, it makes no sense.
No, I agree with that. And yeah, I mean, you see, that's why I like the people that we hang out with, because they're all out there. There's something, it's so weird now that contributing to society, it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's looked down upon now. It's like, oh, you're a plumber, oh, you're an electrician. It's like, yeah, they make great money and they're helping everybody out there. Plumbers are needed they're so underfunded now. There's so many electricians. We don't have enough electricians. One of my roommates in college, his dad was an electrician. He came to visit us one day. He had 3 people around his waiting outside at his van to talk to him about getting a job because they couldn't get an electrician out there because it's so underfunded, because nobody talks about it. Everyone just talks about going and being a fitness influencer and, oh, watch this, I'm going to sleep until 10. Oh, let me take a picture of my ass. Oh, let me take a picture of my abs that are so unrealistic to get.
Yeah, it is crazy that people want that life. But I do, having conversations like this, you become so appreciative for your mundane life, but really it's a fun life, like, and it's, I love it. You got to keep things in perspective and have gratitude practices to realize how lucky you are. But
I agree.
I think that in the near future I got to get away from it, because when I've done these social media fasts in the past, you
feel great.
You feel so good.
I know. I agree with you. And that's the job, and that's why the job that I work now, I have so much appreciation. For those who don't know, I'm a engineering sales, so I work a lot in manufacturing places, and it's just like in the middle of nowhere, just hard men working, lifting big bags, carrying stuff, and just contributing, whether it's like food or it's into the industrial. I was just at a place that makes all the tin cans for food in the United States a couple weeks ago. It's in the middle of West Virginia, and it's just nice to meet. They're just real. All they care about is they just like wake up, they go to their job, they come home, and they've got a nice family, and now they live in the middle of nowhere. Now, it's not for everybody, but it's honestly really pretty. They'll live in the hills of West Virginia.
They're probably happier than a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, this is such a basic life, and social media tries to tell you that this isn't the life, but I work with all these people, and they're so fun, and we'll just sit there, and after I get everything that I need, we'll sit there and we'll talk for a half hour. I mean, most places I'm there, I only need about a half hour to see the stuff and get the pictures and the information I need, but we'll be there for an hour and a half. We'll just sit there and talk for an hour, and they're such relatable people, because they're just easygoing people like me that just want a basic life with good friends, good family, and they got food and water, and they're happy, and that's all that I need in my life. I don't really care about the designer watches and the designer clothes. For me, I like the basic life of getting up, getting after it, working, contributing to people, helping them get food or water. We provide equipment for places that make medicine, and I like coming home and seeing my friends. We'll have some dinner. Tonight we'll have dinner with some friends and laugh a lot, and just enjoy each other's company. I think it's so underrated. We used to do this thing in Europe. We realized how American we were when we would sit down for a meal, and we would be the only ones in the entire restaurant who all of us would be at our phones, looking up, talking on our phone, talking. Everybody else doesn't pick up their phone once at dinner. So what we started doing is everyone would put their phone in the middle. Nobody would touch their phone. And it's amazing what would happen when you would force yourself to just conversate and you couldn't look at your phone, how much fun you would have at a dinner table. And I don't think people understand how much fun it is to just share a meal with people. It's been one of my favorite things as I've gotten older. I sound like such an old man, but it really appeared to me my senior year of high school. We had to do this retreat. It's a Christian awakening retreat. I went to a Catholic school, but it really wasn't a Christian awakening retreat. It was just really a retreat on your life and reflecting on your 18 years as you're about to go into adulthood. And it made me so sad when my small group that we worked with talked about our big emphasis was family dinners and how they all, obviously people are so busy with sports and everything nowadays, but even when they did have a time for a family dinner, everybody's on their phone and scrolling. And I'm like, that's so weird to me because I grew up, there was no technology at the table. Every Sunday night was family dinner. Obviously through the weekday, people were busy with stuff, but if there was nothing going on that night, we all sat down, had family dinner for an hour. We would just sit there and talk. And then it's now gone into my adult life, and it's made me really appreciate those small moments as a kid that I can apply them now to my adulthood, and how much enjoyment I get from just sitting around having, I mean, literally, it's the same thing as me and you having this talk right here, except we have some food, maybe a few drinks, and no technology around. And it's so much fun and entertaining what you can get from just sitting there and talking with people. Great stories, jokes, you know, things that happen to you in the day that you just don't think about reflecting, you know?
Yeah, when I get done with one of these podcasts, I feel so refreshed because when do you get to just throw on a headset and literally have a conversation?
There's no distractions.
No distractions. You're just man to man sitting here having a conversation.
Thought pops in your head and you're like, oh, what about this? You just run ideas past each other. Like, it's crazy because I get some ideas when I'm just sitting here talking to people, and I journal every day.
Drink a little espresso, get the brain firing.
Get the brain going. Yeah, exactly. Because I go home and I'll just start journaling about the thoughts that I have, and then I just reflect on those thoughts every day that I write about. I'm like, wow, that's a good thought. And it's crazy because that's where personal development comes in, is like, you just don't have these really great thoughts. You have to work on them. And there's a great way to work on them is writing. That's how you get, that's how you can get really good at speaking in public. You practice public speaking. How do you get really good at a sport? You continue to practice it. So how do you get good at stuff like this? You got to have good thoughts. Well, how do you have good thoughts? You write about them. You think about them. And yeah, it's amazing what they can develop into.
Yeah. Starting the podcast was super scary for me. You know.
It's a risk. Yeah, you don't have any experience with it at all. You don't know how to go about it.
I still get nervous. I think I'm a pretty good conversationalist, but I still get nervous that and there's gonna get to a point where it just becomes dead silent, and I'm sure I'll get to that point at some point.
You can make mistakes too. You're gonna make mistakes. And some people are too afraid to fail that they don't even try. But yeah, I mean, from the first time we met, I feel like we always have stuff to talk about. Like, we met at that bar at O's, and we sat there and just talked for hours. We'd never met each other before, and it's like, dude, we just talked for 3 hours nonstop. Yeah. My voice is gone, and we haven't even raised our voice at all. We're just having a conversation.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so fun. And then we go 4x4x48, and I'm kind of nervous. I'm like, I don't know how this group's gonna be. Nobody really knows each other. Like, people know of each other but don't really know each other. And then all of a sudden, it's like we couldn't stop talking for like 2 days and stop laughing.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable experience. Yeah, but yeah, we did the.
Did you post our first podcast?
I did not.
Okay.
I still have it.
Oh, I know. I'm just asking so we can, if you want to reflect on those things.
We could definitely reflect on the 4x4x48.
Yeah.
But we did the David Goggins challenge, the 4x4. So 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And
first weekend of March.
First weekend of March. I have this mentality which has brought me so many great places in life, where if somebody asks me to do something and I just kind of say yes to anything. And I to be honest, Steve, I did not want to say yes to you. it wasn't that I was scared of the challenge.
But
it was
yeah,
more so just the people.
But
like I didn't know.
That's why like I'm like I knew it was a good group and I knew it was gonna be hard for you. But I'm like, you know, my mindset is always they might say no, but if I don't ask, they'll never say yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you gotta put the ball in their court and whatever happens. And yeah, it might be a little awkward at first because that's the thing I was thinking. I was like, gosh, this could be awkward, but we'll figure it out. You know?
Yeah.
That was my thought. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Steve and I were in different friend groups during college. We had a bunch of mutual friends and we were friends. But 1 year post grad, this was last March. He asked me to do
I think it was like in January, so like a month.
Was it January?
You had like a month and a half to figure out an
48 mile. He asked me to do a 48-mile endurance challenge. He's like, oh, I'm going to one of my friends that I kind of know, and there's like 3 other people that I sort of kind of know, and maybe one other person's joining. I was like, so am I gonna know anybody? No. I'm like, all right, let me think on this. He's like, dude, just do it. We'll have a good time. And I'm like, all right, I'm in. Fuck it. So we ended up he picked me up. We drove down to Canton, Ohio, and we stayed at our good friend now Connor's house, and at his parents' house, slept in his basement, and we had just a group of
6 of us,
goons that wanted to get after it.
6 goons. Nobody knew everybody. Like there was 2 guys I had no idea with. There was like one guy I was good friends with, Luke, who I just became friends with over like me and Luke have been friends for a year, and another guy I played soccer with. That was the group. Yeah,
and we just had the most incredible experience. I mean, I'm smiling now. Just so hard thinking about our experience.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If I like look back on 2023 and say like, what are the 5 most memorable moments, that will 100% be on there.
One of my top moments of the year.
One of my top moments of the year. I mean, we went through it. I mean, we overcame this massive challenge together and had so much fun doing it. We just
I mean, laugh nonstop.
I feel like everybody, has this reaction after doing something like this, but I truly mean every single word that comes out of my mouth. I was like calling my parents afterwards, like, this was the greatest weekend of my life.
It was so fun. I know, it was like Sunday morning, 3:45. It's like, we got to run 4 miles in 15 minutes, and somebody's making a joke about somebody else, and it's just like laughing, and it's like, haha, we got to run 4 miles. This is going to be so great.
Yeah, it starts raining and sleeting in the middle of the night.
And you're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, but it's such a cool accomplishment when you go through something like that. I definitely want to do it again this year, and I ended up having Connor on the podcast.
Right, I know, isn't it crazy?
Afterwards,
you made a great friend.
Made a great friend, and we still keep in touch to this day.
I know.
Shout out Connor. He's a real one. The
man.
He sent me a Spotify rap. That was like his 3rd podcast on there. I made his top list.
Awesome. I was gonna say, because he literally didn't know a majority. He didn't know the only he knew 2 of the 6 people well. And he invited everyone over to his house. He's like, yeah, just come on over. We'll be fine. We'll have a good time. And it's like, just Connor's the man. And he's so freaking awesome. And that's why I knew, like, I was like, once you meet Connor's just an easy dude. I can introduce him to anybody.
Connor was supposed to be born in the 70s.
Yeah.
Or actually the 60s.
60s, 70s, whatever. But yeah, because like 2 weeks ago, I introduced him to my girlfriend for the first time. And I was like, I know once I introduce him to her to Connor, they'll sit and talk. And they talked for like over an hour. And I was like, I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, he's such a good guy.
Such a good guy to get along with. And no, and it's funny because like I didn't know Riley at all. I had met Riley one other time before then, and we talked for like 10 minutes, and that was it. And now Riley's putting together a training program for me come the new year, which is awesome.
That's so cool.
I made a couple new friends too, which was awesome.
Wow. It is an interesting life. I can't wait. I hope I really want to evaluate at the beginning of this new year and write some things down that I really want to do. That's going to be something on them on the list. What are some big things that you want to accomplish in 2024?
That's good. That's a good one. I think I'm going to do my first month where I do 2 marathons in a month. I think I'm going to do that in May. I think I got 2 marathons on the list. And then, I mean, right now, like every single one of my goals right now is to just, I don't like to make multiple goals into like one category of like do an ultra marathon and also qualify for Boston, because I think that you get too distracted trying to chase 2 separate goals. So right now my main goal is sub 3-hour marathon, and then once I hit that, then I'll start upping it and probably go for a 50-mile ultra marathon, and then from there the goal will probably eventually do a 100-mile ultra marathon, and then from there probably to do a 200 ultra. And I mean, it could be a 5-6 year program, and I think that's where a lot of people struggle with making a goal that long, because it is hard to think 5 years into the future. I mean, I'll be 30, and it's hard to imagine what life's going to be like then. But I just know that if I consistently just stay after it, that I will get to that goal. So that's always been my mindset of like, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's just about being consistent to get to that goal. It might take longer than you think, but if you're consistent, you'll eventually get to that goal.
Yeah.
The consistency. Yeah. And again, we talked about it, but like there's so much delayed gratification that you don't get. It takes a long time to get there, and you just always see the social media and the final product and everything. And I think that's why I like reading books about people, because you actually see, they give you the whole story of how it started to how it finished. You just don't see the 2-second Instagram photo. They're like, oh, I completed this. And like, that's why in early December, my goal was to do 1,000 miles ran in the 2023 calendar year. I hit 1,000 miles the last week in November, so with a month to go. Wow. And everybody's writing on my like story like, oh, this is amazing, congratulations, because I like posting like accomplishments that I've done. Like, it makes me feel good. I want to celebrate them a little bit too. So,
definitely, you deserve it.
Yeah, I think I deserve it a little bit. And everyone's like, wow, that's amazing, how'd you do that? Like, how do you do that? And I'm just like, honestly, it's not as hard as you think. It's consistency. I'm like, let me break this down for you. There's 52 weeks. That's 20 miles of running a week. If you do 4 5-mile runs and you do a 10-minute pace per mile, 10-minute pace, that's 3 hours and 20 minutes of running a week. It's not a lot.
Right.
That's 3 hours and 20 minutes of running. And so I'm like, if you just break it up into pieces and you're consistent, you can hit your goal really easily. It's just, everyone's just so focused on the number 1,000. Like, that's so overwhelming. I never looked at it as 1,000 miles. All I looked at is I got 20 miles to get done this week. Okay. Got 20 miles done. Okay. I got to get 20 miles done this week. And I was just staying consistent with it. And I even got it done a month early. And I was out for 2 weeks with a sprain, or with a twisted ankle, swollen ankle. And I took a month off at the beginning of the year because I got tendonitis in both my Achilles. So you look at that, I took 8 weeks off and I'm still able to get to 1,000 miles.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Just consistency.
Yeah,
it's crazy what you can do if you just break it up into small goals and you're consistent, and you can achieve way more than what you thought was possible. I mean, I am. I never thought I'd run a marathon, and I never thought I'd be talking about a 50-mile ultra marathon in my goal as a goal. So
it's life secret.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
life secret is consistency.
Yeah, once you unlock it, and like, I never was a sauna or a cold tub person, and now I try never to miss those, of like a sauna, hitting a cold plunge, and you just start unlocking new levels of yourself, and you're just like, if this feels good, more's got to be better. And then you do more, and you're like, well, if I do even more than what I'm doing, then I'm gonna feel even great. And you just get to this point in your life where you're like, holy crap, it's amazing how much I've changed since I was like even young. I'll reflect. It's funny because people are like, oh, you're so social and outgoing, but what people don't know is I used to be absolutely terrified to talk to anybody. There's this guy who was 2 or 3 years older than me in grade school. Now, my grade school was kindergarten through 8th grade, and I took bus number 7 home. And the first time I took it, I was in 1st grade. I get on the bus, and there was a 4th grader, and all he asked me was, what's your name? And I was so scared and shy, I used to cry when he would ask me. He would ask me every week. And the girls that knew me, because I had some like girls that babysat me, but also were all like my parents, their friends' kids, they were older than me and the same age, and like, shut up, stop talking to him, because it would just put me into tears because I was so scared to talk to people. And now like I could go introduce myself or talk to anybody and I wouldn't be nervous or to introduce myself. And it's just so funny when you reflect on who you were and like who you became in the whole process. It's wild to me. Like, I think about that because I told that story to someone last week and they're like, you were shy? And I was like, I know, it's so hard to believe me being shy, but I was the scaredest kid in the world to talk to anybody. My parents used to make me talk to everybody, introduce myself, say hello, and it's incredible what that did for me and my confidence and how I developed after that. It's wild. It really is.
Yeah, I was a shyer kid as well.
Yeah.
But now I'm very outgoing like you, and I could hold a conversation with anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could go down Cleveland or Columbus, and you're gonna bump into like 6 people that you knew somehow, and they met you once, and you're like, oh yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So you are gonna do a half Ironman. What are your what's the goal? Just get her done?
No, sub 6. I really want to go sub 6.
Do you have a bike you're looking at right now, or?
Yeah, I'm looking to sell my bike
Yeah.
and get something a little bit more roady.
If you want, one of the guys that I work with, he used to own a really top tier bike shop in Indianapolis, and he used to do work for guys that rode in the Tour de France. Like he would work on their bikes. So I mean, I got a good contact if you're looking. He can give you, dude. The first time I met him was in Michigan in May. We were at a training seminar together for our job, and I started talking to him. And he's like, yeah, I love riding bikes. And it was wild. He's telling me, I just picked his brain for an hour and learned all about bikes. And he was like, yeah, if you don't, he's like, I remember we started having a conversation about just tires. Like, yeah, tires make such a difference. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, these are the top tier tires. They're like $4,000. I'm like, why are they 4,000? He's like, because they'll make you like 5 miles an hour faster. I'm like, just getting those tires on my bike is going to make me 5 miles faster. Like, absolutely. And it's just wild, the information of
Right.
And again, that's just another hobby of like somebody maybe not into running or swimming, but they're huge cyclists, and there's these crazy cycling races all over the world, and there's such a big community for cycling. It's wild coming in here. I saw like 3 guys cycling. I'm like, those are some really, really nice bikes, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the biking and cyclist and triathlon community gets very scientific.
Yeah.
With these bikes and everything. You can see how somebody could become addicted to it.
Yeah, I know. Have you read Lance Armstrong has a book called It's Not About the Bike, My Journey Back to Life, and obviously whatever, he cheated, but it's still amazing to read about his life, and he talks about all the scientific work that's done and what the proper gear is for him to ride at his best speed for his cadence, and he talks about the angle of his seat to get the maximum power on the pedals and the height for and it's so wild, all the science that goes into the cycling. I'm just like, yeah, this feels about right on my bike seat.
Your bike seat's like 6 inches too low.
Yeah, you're like, this feels good though. It's so funny, man. That's another really good read, and again, that's just another inspirational guy who, okay, yeah, he took drugs. So did everybody in that race. So who really cares? Everybody was cheating, but
They'll always try to write you off.
Yeah, exactly. They'll always look for reasons to tear you down. But the dude had testicular cancer and he had freaking 2 brain tumors, and came back and won 2 Tour de France's after he looked down and out. He literally quit. He was getting ready to quit cycling, and then he tried to make one more comeback and then won his first tour. And it's just amazing how some people get so close to the edge of quitting and just try to go just a little bit further, and they hit it's wild how many people you hear about like just like on the verge of like they just want to quit. I feel like you hear about that all the time with the SEALs when they're in buds and they're like, I wanted to quit so badly that something just kept pushing me to go. And it's crazy how many people just get so close to quitting and they're right on the edge of success and they don't even know it, and they just push a little bit harder, and it's crazy at that last moment. It's like when everything looks lost, how they succeed. And that's how I always, every time I'm like on the verge of quitting, I'm like, just keep going, just a little bit more, it's coming. It just takes a while to be successful,
Can you feel yourself becoming more mentally resilient?
Yes. Yeah, it's wild. Like it's crazy. I think this past year has been a crazy year of growth for me, and I was reflecting on really how I became this person. Is shout out to my high school coach and anybody that listens to this about possibly being too hard on kids. Is he used to put us through some of the most just grueling workouts as a high schooler I'd ever been through, and I used to get so mad. I wanted to quit so much. And it honestly turned me into like just this beast of like untapped potential I never knew I had, because he just kept pushing us. I remember my freshman year, I would practice with the varsity team, and there was a rule on the varsity team that if you got scored on the first 10 minutes or the last 10 minutes of a half in the soccer game, so it's a 40-minute half. So and for half the game, if we were to get scored on, we would run 10 300s. And what he found out is if he made us run, and all 10 300s had to be done in under a minute. So it would be 6 50-yard sprints, 3 100-yard sprints, 12 25-yard sprints, which were brutal, having to do 12 25-yard sprints in under a minute. If you want to try something really tough, go try doing that and then take a minute break and try to do it again. And the whole team would have to make it. And what he did is at first he would do it at the beginning of practice, but then everyone would coast the rest of practice because they would be gassed from the runs. So then he would put on a hard practice, and then at the end of practice, we would run the 10 300s. And if there was one person that didn't make it, that one wouldn't count for the 10. So say we did a 650, and one of the goalie didn't make it in under a minute. He did 101. we were running us another 650. So then instead of doing 10, you're doing 11 because John didn't make it in under a minute, which sucked. And I was a freshman. And I was like, I cannot be the guy that causes these seniors to run because they will be so mad and want to beat the shit out of me. I was like, I'm just not going to be that guy. And then I went into soft, and that's when like the flip switched of like, I got to be in crazy good shape to play soccer. And so every morning that's where my early morning workouts started. As I got up, I was motivated. I wanted to win a state championship. We had a really good year. We're going to have a really good team my sophomore year. And I wanted to be on that varsity team really badly, but I knew the team was stacked. Our starting midfield ended up, one had an offer to go to UC. He didn't end up going, but was a stud. The other one had a walk-on spot at UK, which is a D1 program. The other guy was a junior. He ended up being player of the state in Kentucky. He was Cincinnati City Player of the Year. Dude was an absolute stud. And then the other one was the team captain. Those were the 4 starters. And I was like, that is some elite competition. First of all, I got to be in shape like them because they're stronger than me. But if I'm in better shape than them, I can run past them. And so I'd get up in the morning, I would run, and then I worked as a maintenance man at my grade school / parish from 8 to 12. I'd come home from that, and I would do a little bit of my summer reading, and then I would go play pickup soccer with all the upperclassmen. I would literally have one pick me up. We'd go play soccer. I'd come home, I'd get a little bit of rest, and then I would do performance training with my freshman coach who played in the MLS for a little bit, and he would put me through some of the most brutal workouts ever. We would do like 500 yards of lunges, just lunges for 500 yards, and I'd come home and I would just struggle to sit, and it just geared me so much because I'd get to varsity practice and our coach would just do stuff to just make it so much more mentally tough. Like maybe we're going to run for 40 minutes straight this practice, but before that, we're going to do 500 squats. We're going to do 1,000 squat lunges. We're going to do a couple hundred push-ups just to make us so sore that it makes the running that much harder. And then we're going to have running stipulations on it so that if not everyone does it and you're not working hard enough because you guys should be able to do this, then we're just going to keep running because you're not in good enough shape to do that. And right. I remember just hating life. And the other reason he did it is because he hated cutting people at our school. So he would literally try to get you to quit. That's literally his goal. His goal was to make you run so much that it was literally like, and that's why I think also I mean, it's nowhere near anything like the Navy SEALs, but like people would literally, like we would have so many kids that would quit because
right.
they just couldn't put up with how hard some of our practices were at that young of an age, and you've never been that uncomfortable in your life. And it was funny because I went back to a game this fall and I got to talk to him, and he's like, we're catching up and everything. He's like, yeah, you just can't do some of the things you did now. And you're like, you have no idea how much you impacted my life today. I'm like, I run all these marathons and I do all this crazy stuff because of everything that you instilled, all the lessons that I learned from you, realizing my untapped potential. And I'm still so thankful for Jeremy Robertson because he's the first guy that really like just put me in that mindset of like grind. And it's amazing the rewards. I mean, I was fortunate enough that I won a state championship where in Kentucky there's only one division for soccer. We lost 9 starters my junior year, came back my senior year. We made it all the way to the state final again, and we lost in PKs. But, I mean, our team was nowhere near the best, but we were just so disciplined, and we worked so hard that we just became a great team because we had such good team chemistry. We all worked so hard for one another, and it paid off for us. I mean, we obviously didn't get the end goal, but I still look back. It was amazing because so many of my teammates, shout out to all of them, from the 2016 fall season, because that summer I would tell them like, hey, I'm going to be working out at this high school at this time. Whoever wants to come can come. And we would have like 15 dudes show up, and they knew that I was about to just put them through a hellish workout. But I'm like, we're going to work so hard that it makes our tryout and practice in the fall easy. And people would show up, and I'd just put them through brutal workouts, and then we do like a 15-minute core session at the end of the day, and everyone's like, that sucked. And everyone just kept showing up, and there was no guarantee that we're going to win a state championship or anything, and there was no guarantee that we were going to do anything, but everyone just showed up because everyone was committed to the goal. And that's why I always just try to lend out for help, because I think that if you do lend, I think some people just struggle, they don't know where to start. That's another lesson. Like, it's amazing the lessons that I just learned at a young age, because I remember like all I did was just put in a text in our group chat, hey, I'm working out at this time, let everybody know, whoever wants to work out with me can work out with me. And we get like 15 guys every workout, and it was only 3-4 days a week, but they would show up, and we would do like 5 1 mile runs, and it'd be like, all right, we're gonna run this mile as fast as you can. Okay, we're gonna take a 3-minute break, and then we're gonna do it again. Okay, we're gonna take another 3-minute break, and then we're gonna do it again. Okay, we're gonna take another 3-minute break, and then we're gonna do it again. And they would just show up, and I just put them through shit, and it made me realize, like, if I'm there to just lend a hand, some people just don't know where to start. If you're there to lend a hand, it's amazing what people will ask for your help that you had no idea were struggling.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I love those stories of like the underdog just finding a way to create chemistry and endurance to outperform those who are maybe more talented than yours. I think I feel like I've always been on a football team that
had that mentality.
Obviously at John Carroll we're a little bit more we're talented, but
yeah, you got to play Mount Union.
We had to play Mount Union, who, if we wanted to win,
good.
Which we never did, but we always played them tight.
I know. It was always a close game.
That's kind of what we had to rely on was our toughness and dependability on each other.
That's what made our soccer team at John Carroll so well, is we were so close. It was like freshmen and seniors. We were always hanging out day before games. I lived with a freshman, a sophomore, junior, and then there was 2 other seniors and me. It was 6 and a half, and it was wild because it was never weird. Like, we just had that great team chemistry, and I think it's amazing. Yeah,
that's so sick. Well, Steve, it's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming out. I wanna give you the floor, man. Like Thanks I did the last time. Of course. We'll have much more of these when we have more things on our list to do in 2024 and more things that we could talk about.
More shit
I'm excited.
I'm always down to come on and talk.
Yeah, of course. It's December 16th now, so we're approaching Christmas and the New Year. I'm gonna release this at the beginning of the new year.
Awesome.
So I'll get it edited up and I'll have some cool clips from it. But
perfect.
I wanna open the floor to you. However you want to end it, just some wise words, some words of advice. I know that you have a lot of, even though you may not think it, you have a lot of great things to say and a lot of power to give to people. So I know that people have told you that before. You're just a great individual that is truly a good person. There's really not much more to say other than you're a good person and a good friend to have in your corner. So
thanks.
Whatever you say, I know it'll be beneficial, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, my advice to people is, if you're not living the life you want to live, figure out what that perfect life looks like for you. Find people that are living the life that you want to live. Copy. The most successful people in the world now are copycats. They copy what successful people are doing. Ask for help, and know that if I could help in any way, that I'm always there for a lending hand. I'm willing to help anybody that asks for it. I think that's the big thing, that if you're not living the life you want, figure out what it looks like and ask for help. It's amazing, the people that are there, and I'm always a resource. I try to be a resource, and I just try to be just one of the people that can inspire people. I think what's his name? He gave the commencement speech at Texas, but he said, you don't have to change the world. You don't have to change a bunch of people's lives. You just have to change 10 people's lives. And if those 10 people change 10 people's lives, and those 10 people change 10 people's lives, we can change a whole generation. And that's really my life goal, is just to find 10 people whose lives I can help change. So if there's any way that I could help change someone's life, I'm all here for it.
The wise and powerful, Steve and Schutt.
Thanks, Luke.
Yep. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for coming on, Steve.
What a blast, dude. I know. What a blast. I know. So fun. I love talking about stuff like that. It was a great time.
Such a blast.
Some good topics. We got into it, honestly.
We hit a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I was in a